Five Nights at Freddy's, a game reigning supreme among indie horror and fandom forums since 2014, being named one of the scariest games to ever exist. Video after video, fan art and more fan art, discussion after discussion about the deep horror aspect of this franchise and its claim to fame for such elements. I hate to break it to you, but Five Nights at Freddy's is, and never was, scary. Hello, hi, my name is Dexterly, and it's been a while since I've done an actual intro. That's mostly because I just either forget or I don't like doing them. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you for clicking on my video, and I hope you watched to the very end. And while you're here, if you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, comment your favorite Five Nights at Freddy's character, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. If you want to support me and my content, check out my Linktree, which links all of my socials in the description below, along with my Ko-Fi. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I have open commissions and one-time donations available on my Ko-Fi because I need to pay for college, so any amount will not only be helpful, but it goes straight to my tuition. Another quick announcement before I get into today's topic, this is a reminder that my Draw This in Your Style challenge is open. I have received a few entries already and they are remarkable, but just remember you have until midnight Central Time on Valentine's Day to submit your entry for a chance to win a free commission from me. My rules for commissions are on my Instagram and my Ko-Fi, but you'll receive a set of these rules if you win anyways, so chop chop. Now enough of that, let's get right into the video. As I said at the beginning, FNAF was never scary, and it certainly is not now. I can tell that the games are trying to go in a more horror direction that matches the overall vibe and dread of the first four games, but that doesn't excuse everything in between and the fact that, well, the franchise as a whole is just not scary. The way I see it, FNAF has always been a stressful game to play, where the scare factor comes from the jump scares. At most, these games are just creepy, and only become frightening if you know the lore. And let's be honest, we all have a grasp of said lore, but we wouldn't be aware of any of it without Game Theory, FNAF, and channels like Dawko who hyperanalyze these games. Because if you just play the games cover to cover with no outside knowledge or influence, the lore is either missed or unclear. I mean, anyone who is unaware of who this is, they would not call him Purple Guy or William Afton, the man behind the slaughter, not even Vincent. Oh yeah, that's an old one. And if you don't get that reference, you're way too young to be on YouTube. That being said, the main feeling of horror that made this game so popular was not the lore or the character designs. It was the gameplay. Now, sitting on a 180 horseshoe with only a few buttons to press and a limited camera, that doesn't sound like entertaining gameplay at all. But if you remember, this was perhaps the first horror game to ever have the player stuck in one place while the monsters come to you. And all you can do is survive, sit, wait, and defend with nothing but doors or a flashlight depending on which game you're playing. This was FNAF's grand appeal, and it was revolutionary, spawning thousands of fan games that copied this exact style with their own monsters and gimmicks. But it was all the exact same concept of sit, wait, survive. As time has gone on, these games have moved from that and have become, well, in my humble opinion, kinda lame. They were kidified with Security Breach, and Scott himself came out and said that that game was not the story he intended to tell, which gives me more faith in him as a storyteller and creator. But then we had FNAF AR, we have coloring books, VR games that are more so mini-games with a twist at the end of the timer. These aren't scary. Nothing about these entries are scary, and they clearly are intended for a young, sensitive audience. Not to say that the first games were ever not that either, but there was a level of maturity that the first 6 games brought to the table, whether it be through dialogue, visuals, or the sense of general and genuine dread while playing and unraveling the secrets of these games. The books, and I mean specifically the Fazbear Frights and Tales of the Pizzaplex, try to replicate that feeling in a Goosebumps style approach. The Silver Eyes... Guys, I'll be real, I kinda hate the Silver Eyes series. When I heard we were getting a FNAF book, I expected something completely different. But we got emo robot girl, forgettable side characters that serve truly no purpose, and weasel-looking William Afton. This series went over the more science-ish part of the series, and I know Scott loves science fiction, but the moment we started doing Remnant and Soul floppy disks, it just made the series feel really dry and shallow and overall ridiculous. How did we go from haunted animatronics with a vendetta and a poor soul trying to understand what all this means to the garbled mess of tangled necklaces you find behind your mom's bathroom sink? Don't get me wrong, I love Scott Cawthon. He inspired me to write my own stories, and I've been a part of the fandom since birth. But I can't help but feel embarrassed whenever I mention these games or that I ever liked them because of the connotations that come with the statement, I'm a FNAF fan. All of that is to lead up into what I have drawn for us today. While the title of the video is Making FNAF Scary, I'm not rewriting the story or reprogramming the game or whatever. No, I'm just drawing the main animatronics in a less unrealistic animatronic style. Now I know that was a weird way of explaining that, so let me go and get a little more detailed. If we look at Freddy and Pals from the first game, we immediately get a sense of Scott's model style. He likes these big-eyed characters that have a very cartoony look to them, and I mean it makes sense when you remember how FNAF became to be in the first place. Comparing these designs to that of Chipper and Sons, we can see that these are the same models but with some lines in between. Which is really unfortunate because while this makes the character really easily and instantly recognizable and marketable, it feels like an easy way out when you compare it to the creature designs from The Desolate Hope, which we do see some influence from when we see things like the endoskeletons, the FNAF 4 characters, and even characters like Candy Cadet. But if we are understanding the timeline properly, all of these animatronics from the first 6 games are supposed to date from the 80s until the 90s or even early 2000s. And guys, this is not what animatronics in North America look like. I'm specifically referring to things like Showbiz Pizza, Chuck E. Cheese, and Rainforest Cafe. We're not talking Disney or Universal's animatronics because that would be obviously out of the budget for Fazbear Entertainment. Well actually perhaps the main reason animatronics are seen to be so terrifying is because of how lifeless they look. How they are always smiling but there's no sparkle in their eyes, and once the curtain goes down, all they do is just stand there and wait for time to pass until the next show. It's frightening, and it perfectly explains why the idea of children's souls and bodies being trapped in these mechanical tombs is so horrifying. But to us as the viewer, player, and night guard, they just have to seem creepy on the surface without the initial knowledge of the children and their history. It also makes William more terrifying when you remember he kills while wearing the Golden Bonnie suit. Which I'm still not convinced they call that thing Golden Bonnie. The character name is probably something like Bappy or something like that, since Phone Guy in FNAF 2 literally just mentions we had a spare one in the back, a yellow one. Whereas he refers to Foxy as Foxy and the puppet as the puppet thing, and even Mangle is called by its name. So why of all characters is the one we call Golden Bonnie or Spring Body or Springtrap the only one without an established name? Even Fredbear is called Fredbear and not Golden Freddy, which don't get me started on Golden Freddy. I'm an art channel, not a theory channel, but maybe I'll go into a deep dive in the future. Comment FNAF deep dive if you want to see that. Anyways, I feel like I've been rambling a bit, so let's try to focus. The goal of this video and the art was to recreate the FNAF 1 animatronics and accurate depictions of 80s or 90s animatronics, since those are easily more unsettling to view than the original source material. And I'm not the only one who thinks this. We saw it with Baddington, Squimpus, and plenty of other artists on Instagram and Twitter, both of which I have, so go follow me, link in the description. But the main issue I see with a lot of these, specifically with Baddington's first Ring Around the Rosie, where the characters were like, obviously scary, if that makes sense. The first FNAF Plus announcements showed Chica looking completely janked and hideous, Bonnie actually looks like a serial killer, and Freddy and Foxy, well, they were alright. These felt too much on the opposite end of the spectrum. Scott's designs scream, "My kids will play this," and Baddington's designs say, "If you play this, you will have nightmares." But both fail to achieve that healthy middle of realistic, child-friendly, and horrific. So let's begin. Starting with Freddy, I took heavy inspiration from the Rock-afire explosion, something that even Gravity Falls was able to get right despite the art style removing any options for truly terrifying imagery for anyone over the age of 4. We commonly see in this band of nuts and bolts that the characters have rubber faces, and I'm not going to pretend that I know why this is a thing, but I'm going to assume it was just a cheap and easy way to achieve a malleable face so they didn't look so robotic. Or maybe it was because of how animals at the time were drawn traditionally, with white flesh tones for the face and fur for the rest of the body. Maybe it was to make the characters look more human and therefore more appealing to children. Something about facial recognition and child psychology, I don't know, but that's just my theory. So I incorporated this exact aspect into Freddy's design. I didn't use that weird flesh tone though, because I wanted to at least keep everyone's original colors since we were only redoing the build of these characters and not a full-on redesign. So I gave Freddy a more traditional bear look instead of a cute teddy bear design. Made him fatter since he is a bear. He should be a little flabby. And I made sure to do this for him and the others. I took away the separators between the body parts. See, the originals have always been kind of blocky in a way with their pieced on bodies. which again, does not make sense when these are supposed to also be costumes. If these were an actual mascot suit, the whole thing should be one piece with maybe feet and gloves to put on along with the head. Now, it is never explicitly stated that the main four are suits, but we can determine that by Springtrap's design being exactly the same, all of them are built this way, and the timing of these characters being created along with many times we see humans in the exact suits across different parts of the franchise. So I figured I would just make them more like an actual mascot suit, coming from an ex-high school mascot. I also wanted to add clothes to these characters since making them all in one piece takes away from the complication of the visual design. Freddy was simple, but also really difficult. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to get to that point. So I gave him his top hat and worked from there, giving him a dapper suit and cuffs with no sleeves, since this is an animatronic with no true fashion rules. And honestly, I really like how it looks, even if it is a little silly. I also gave him these traditional cartoon gloves to give the understanding that this is a real-life cartoon, and he's also in a band, so he would naturally be more classy in his attire. I also gave him some toenails because I kind of just felt like doing that, and it ended up looking weird without them, so the nails are staying. I also, after color picking for Freddy, realized that in the light, Freddy is very saturated and very orange. I ended up desaturating that orange a bit, but I still kept him kind of vibrant for the sake of the flat colors. Next was Bonnie, and I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. I don't like this design. It seems every time I do art of Bonnie, I hate how much it turns out, even though he's my favorite character. I have no idea what this is a source of, but oh well. Being a bunny, I didn't have a good real-life reference to base the design off of. I ended up finding this image of a Bugs Bunny animatronic and heavily based Bonnie's design off of that, while keeping the same general body type as Freddy so he didn't look exactly like Bugs. I also made him look kind of baked, which all the animatronics kind of do, but his base design is not truly where I struggled. The trouble began with his outfit. I didn't want to give him the exact same clothes as Freddy, so I had to think of something that fit the vibe but was distinct to Bonnie. That's when it hit me. Using Bugs Bunny as our reference again, he wears a dapper tailcoat, and that's exactly what I was about to do with Bonnie. I used his belly color for the coat, a dim white for the undershirt, and red for his bow tie like in the original. But I also felt like he needed pants since the tailcoat was so loud. But I didn't know what color to do for the pants without introducing a new color, and then that would make Bonnie a little too complex in design. Then I realized that there is in fact the perfect color already on Bonnie's design, the dark gray for his guitar. I decided to use that as his pants color and it ended up working perfectly for the design. Before I move on to Chica, I want to point out Bonnie's feet. Since Bonnie has rabbit feet, I decided not to give him claws or toes, but rather a solid piece that makes up 3 toes like most animated rabbit feet look. I imagined these feet are made of that rubber material, but I don't see why fur on the feet would be an issue either. Moving on to our next design, we have Chica. Now, Chica in her original model, she just looks so perturbed, and I did initially keep that look on her face until I realized that she looked intentionally creepier, which if you remember, we are trying to avoid with these designs. So later, during my coloring process, I ended up giving her the same baked eyelid thing as the others. But first, let's discuss her actual design. She ended up being the chunkiest of the characters, and that is because hens in cartoon worlds usually look really fluffy and like a big pillow. So I did that for Chica as well. I personally don't like that Chica is yellow since chickens are usually white or brown or even black, but yellow makes sense for the context of the character, and Bonnie is literally purple, so we can't really argue with that. Or blue, whatever lighting you want to call them in. So we'll just ignore that for now and keep her yellow. I made her head really feathery, making her 3 feathers on top of her head more floppy rather than so stiff, making it almost look like hair, like the side ponytail that popped off in the 80s. I also gave her, instead of regular arms and hands, chicken wings. So she has this mass of feathers hanging off her arms up to her fingers, which are also more feather-like instead of human-type hands. I also considered giving her a tail, but I figured if I were to do that, I wouldn't be able to see it at this time being from a front view angle. So just imagine she has a little chicken tail thing going on. Then finally, we have her outfit. In my FNAF as Humans video, which you should check out, the art is kinda terrible, but I still like my concepts, so maybe I'll redraw that in the future. But anyways, I based her outfit off of that design, that being a diner dress with an apron. She carries her cupcake around like a waitress, so I wanted to give the vibe that she brings food to the kids with the dress as well. I started by turning the bib into an apron, letting it go down to about her mid-thigh and adding some ruffles at the bottom for variety in the design. Then I put the iconic "Let's Eat" on the top half of the apron before I decided to give her knee-length dress. Now again, I wanted to stay with the range of pre-existing colors for the coloring, so her dress was just a little difficult to color until I decided I would just make it the same color as her eyes, of which I had to alter a bit since it was just too bright and saturated to properly complement the yellow. Also at some point I gave Chica some baddie lashes because she just looked kinda ugly without them, and it feels more like a traditional animatronic now that she has them. And it also draws more attention to her face while also adding diverse elements to her head since she has a pretty simple design facially. Then of course we have the cupcake, which has no true significance. I didn't change anything about it, so it's pretty much the same, maybe just a little stylized. I really don't see the cupcake needing any changes. I also didn't expect the cupcake to be such an important role in the FNAF movie. I always thought it was just a prop, and I don't care for it being possessed or whatever. Okay, now finally we have Foxy, who I never really have been a big fan of. I mean, he's cool, but I like Bonnie more, and then I was a huge fan of the puppet for a while until I went full throttle purple guy. Foxy is one of those characters that is really hard to screw up since he is so expressive. And I know that sounds silly, but look. Foxy has always been the odd one out, the unique one, the one who changes the most out of all the character variants. So there's a lot of time spent with this character to properly understand how he should be, even in redesigns. I also was thinking about maybe taking away all of his exposed endoskeleton stuff, but I don't think we ever determined why Pirate's Cove was out of order, and because of that, I decided to leave those elements in the event that him being out of order is related to his disheveled appearance. I also like his skinny legs, I think it's just funny looking. But that element in turn made Foxy small overall, which he already is, so I think that's fine. Anyways, I made him much more furry than before, so he looks more like a huggable fox. That's the thing about these original characters, they look fine, but they just don't look squishy or huggable like other animatronics. So I was trying to give that illusion when designing these. This also made his snout come out looking very different too. His jaw in the original works, but I never really got the idea that he was a fox because his snoot is so wide. So I made an effort to make it more angular and sharp like many older cartoons and even fox or coyote type animatronics from pre-existing franchises. I was worried he looked a little too Disney for a bit, but after coloring and getting the rest of his design down, he came out looking as I intended. So one thing you'll notice is that I gave him a shirt, but it's open so you can see the tears on his chest. There was originally no reason for that other than it makes sense to have him in that type of shirt style and also to pay homage to the tears in his original design. I also gave his shirt some frills to give a Captain Hook kind of vibe, and honestly I think I perfectly achieved that and I'm very proud of this design. I'm wrapping it up there since, well, I didn't change anything else. Everything about Foxy is the same. I really just changed his head and gave him a shirt. I didn't think about it until I was writing the script though, that maybe I should have given him a tail. So I went back and added one real quick to wrap everything up. But that covers everything about these designs. I didn't have time to make any art of them, so hopefully you can all see my vision and perhaps I will make some art of them later, or you can make your own fan art of these designs, which would be super cool. I'm not opposed to that. But otherwise, that is all I have for this video. If you stayed to the very end, thank you so much. That means more to me than you will ever know. Be sure to support me on Ko-Fi, Lord knows I need it, or just leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and follow my socials. I just updated my Linktree to be more accurate to my current socials too. If you don't know what to comment, tell me your favorite FNAF character, or tell me which of these designs you liked the most. Whatever you comment, your engagement helps and means so much. Also, don't forget that I have a Draw This in Your Style challenge open and active. If you want to win free commissions, you should enter and follow the rules for the challenge listed on my community tab, the Instagram post, or even on Pinterest with a hyperlink to my new Instagram account. So don't miss out on this. In the meantime, check out some of my other videos. I work really hard each week to get content out for you all every Saturday, so let me know it's worth it. But thank you so much for watching, and until next time.